Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the next session of the GMO Launch Conference. So this session will be about India, and as you, I guess, already have in mind and know that India has an ambitious 100 gigawatt solar target by 2022. And while the solar market has grown fast in the country, has emerged as one of the world's top three markets in recent years, India has nearly two-thirds of its solar way to go to meet its target. It's a pleasure for me to introduce my friend Subrahmanyam Pulipaka. He's the CEO of the National Solar Energy Federation of India. And indeed, he is the youngest chief executive officer of NSEFI. And NSEFI is the umbrella organization representing the solar energy companies in India that are active along the whole photovoltaic value chain. You can name them like project developers, manufacturers, engineering companies, financing institutions, and other stakeholders as well. So the National Solar Energy Federation of India is directed by leaders who have decades of experience leading private organizations as well as policy initiatives. So now it's time for you, Subrahmanyam. We are extremely interested what your thoughts about India towards 100 gigawatt in time would be. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Florian, and I'm very happy to be here. For quite a long time, we have been working closely with both Smarter E and SolarPower Europe, and I'm very happy that they have launched this year's edition of Global Solar Market Outlook. And I'm more than happy to, or rather thrilled to present about the condition and ongoing situation on the ground in India and talk about whether we will be reaching 100 gigawatt in time. So I have divided my presentation into four parts, or rather four pieces. I will talk about progress in the first part, where I'll outline about what progress India has made in our journey towards 100 gigawatt. In the second part, I'll talk about the preparations, where how are we gearing up to actually fight or actually get closer to our target of 100 gigawatt. On the third part, I talk about the existing preconditions that need to be addressed so that we can, in a sustainable way, achieve our goals. And in the fourth part, which every one of you might be very eager to understand, whether we'll be reaching 100 gigawatt by 2022, if not how much and when. So starting with the progress part. Before I go to the progress part, I would like to continue or give you a quick brief of NSEFI. We are around 150 member organization. We have been in India fighting the fight of Indian solar industry for the last 9 years. We have represented each and every concern of industry with the government, especially the nodal ministry, which is the Ministry of New Energy. We have a lot of activities inside the federation, where it is being headed by our chairman, Mr. Pranav Mehta, and former secretary, Mr. Deepak Gupta is our director general. Now let's talk about the progress Indian solar industry has made, especially in the last 10 years. This is India's power mix in March 2020. So as of March 31st, India's total installed capacity is 372 gigawatt, out of which 36% of power or the installed capacity is from renewables. Out of this, 27% of total renewable capacity comes from solar energy. We know India has ambitious goals, and India's 2030 goal is to have 40% of its energy, rather than power mix, coming from renewable energy. So 10 years before our 40% target, I think we are certainly in a very good way to achieve that particular target. Now let's switch our focus to RE capacity. Now it is known to everyone that India's solar journey began slightly after 2009-2010, and in the last 10 years, solar power has become one of the largest renewable energy sources in the country. Up until recently, until the large hydro power generation sources are brought into the ambit of renewable energy, solar was the second largest renewable energy source in the country. And it is, as far as the predictions are concerned, solar is in a very comfortable position to replace wind as the second largest renewable energy source considering large hydro to be the first largest renewable energy source in the country. Now, when it comes to this year, especially in the first 3 months of 2020, where almost 1 month we have lost because of the ongoing pandemic, India has installed almost 1 gigawatt of solar in the country, and our total installations stand at around 36,600 megawatts. So this is about where we are at. Now let's see how far we have come since when we started this solar proliferation. India, like I said, was at 0 megawatt 12 years back. Today, at 35,000 megawatts, which is the figure of December 2020, India has become the world's 5th largest country when it comes to the capacity installed, and 3rd largest market when it comes to year-on-year growth. As you can see here clearly, from 2015, that is from 5,000 megawatt in 2020 up to 35,000 megawatt, we have installed 30,000 megawatt in 5 years. There were two reasons behind this. One, until 2014, the previous government's target was to install 20 gigawatt by 2022. But when the new government took over, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, the target was revised. And this target, you should keep in your mind, is both ambitious yet pragmatic, to have 100 gigawatt of solar by 2022, and consequently 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022. Now, once the target was reset, there was a lot of momentum in the market, and India witnessed one of the largest, or rather the sharpest increase in a developing country when it comes to solar installations. Let's talk about investments. This report of UNEP and Frankfurt and Bloomberg NEF was released just a couple of weeks back, where it talks about $9.3 billion investment coming into renewable energy in India. But that is the figure of renewable energy coming from outside. But on my right side of the screen, if you see, in the last 4 years, or rather especially in the last 3 years, and comparing it quarterly wise, on an average, every year, there was no less than $10 billion in investment in solar energy in India. If you might ask why such sudden change, or why such huge amounts of investment coming into solar, and why India, even though it's written $9.3 billion here, India is, though the farthest third, but is still a lucrative destination for renewable energy investments in the country. Because one, we are a developing country, two, we have a policy stability, and three, India, since it's a developing country, there is untapped demand as well as untapped potential. You must have heard a lot of presentations before and after me also. And what makes India unique, or what keeps India in a unique position, is India's sun days. India has more than 300 sun days a year, and our average annual irradiance is around 4.2 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. And there are other locations in the country where this intensity increases even manifold until 6 to 6.2. So we have seen how India marched into the world's top 5 countries in terms of solar installations, how we are the world's 3rd largest solar market in the world, and how, at least in Asia, we are the 2nd, and in the world we are 4th in terms of attracting investments in the renewable energy sector in general and in solar sector in specific over the last 3 to 4 years. Now, let me take you through the preparations part. All of you know that as of now, as you have seen in my graphs a little while ago, out of 100 gigawatt, we have installed 35 gigawatt by the end of December 2019. And it is logical to come to the conclusion that in the next 3 years, we have to triple our annual installations so that we'll achieve our target. And Indian government and Indian industry is well poised to put in maximum efforts for achieving this target. And as a testament of this, I'll take you through the 3 large significant milestones that we have achieved just in this year, especially in the last 3 months. This is in this year, in February 2020, India hosted the world's largest renewable energy plus storage tender. And there, the price that was discovered for peak power price was 5.6 US dollar cents per unit. And this tender, which was tendered for around 1200 megawatt, that is 1.2 gigawatt, requires the companies to supply a firm power of half of the capacity, that is 600 megawatt, for 6 hours during peak demand time. That is either in the morning 5:30 to 9:30, or at night, or in the evening to night from 5:30 to 12:30 a.m. And this will be done on the basis of day-ahead demand. And this project is expected to install at least 3 gigawatt hour of energy storage, and two companies who are NSEFI members, in fact they are NSEFI founding members who founded NSEFI 9 years back, they won this tender, and both of them will be using a mix of wind, solar and storage, and that storage is varying from pumped hydro in one case and battery storage in another. What I want to say here, or what I want to convey here, is that India is not only looking at its target, but India is also looking at becoming a world leader when it comes to proliferation of grid scale battery. 5.6 US dollar cents is something that has been discovered in India and has completely priced out thermal or coal-based generation in the country. Now, there are a lot of countries who are opting for this model. There are a lot of countries, our European counterparts, our Latin American counterparts, especially even in Australia. These kind of tenders are being developed, being discovered, but 5.6 US dollar cents at peak power is the world's lowest peak tariff for any tender of this competition. Now let's talk about another significant achievement that India achieved not so long ago. India's first round-the-clock renewable energy trade. In May 2020, while the entire country, or rather I am not wrong when I say almost 60 to 70% of the world was in lockdown, India conducted its first round-the-clock renewable energy tender. And during this tender, one of India's company won the round-the-clock tariff of 3.8 US dollar cents for per unit, where this price or this PPA price will be increased 3% annually until 15 years. And the main significant or rather salient feature of this tender is that the project or the developer will ensure that the plant or the project will be maintaining at 80% of capacity utilization factor annually. This is by the least 4% of normal renewable energy or normal solar energy capacity utilization factor. And also, when it comes to plant load factor, the companies, the projects is required to maintain the PLF until by 70% every month. So this is an innovative bid, and this is India's first round-the-clock bid, and this is one of the most, I would say, sustainable and lucrative prices that has been discovered for a project or a tender that has been tendered out for round-the-clock and purely based on renewables and storage. And again, one of NSEFI's founding members won this tender. Now, just 1 week before today, that is last week, India concluded world's largest solar tender worth $6 billion. I repeat, $6 billion. In this project of $6 billion, 8 gigawatt of solar will be developed with 2 gigawatt of solar cell and manufacturing capacity, and it will almost create 400,000 jobs in the next 4 years in the country. Out of this 8 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt will be commissioned in the next 2 years, and the 6 gigawatt will be installed in the subsequent years with 2 gigawatt every year. And this will also make India the house of one of the largest single on-site capacity projects, with one project at a single location that will be having capacity more than 2 gigawatt. And again, NSEFI member Adani won this tender. So now you have to understand one thing here. When the entire paradigm of business and economy is completely uncertain, or was completely uncertain, and almost virtually 60 to 70% of the world went under lockdown, India completed 3 of its renewable energy tenders with 3 milestones. What does that say about Indian market? What does it say about Indian industry? It's simple. It reflects, or rather resonates, the resilience with which Indian solar industry has been shaped has been brought up, and it also talks a great length about the potential and the ecosystem that has been developed to promote and harness solar energy in India. Now, shifting our focus to preconditions. I have shown you a very good picture of India's progress. I have also showed you how we are preparing or gearing up with more than, just in the last 3 months, 3 gigawatt of tender of normal RTC and storage, and 8 gigawatt of standalone solar tenders that have been laid out. Strategically addressed for India to achieve its goal. So the first goal, the first issue that is hampering us from achieving our goal is the renewable purchase obligation. So India has set an ambitious renewable purchase obligation of 21% of the total energy mix to come from renewables by the end of 2022, out of which 10.5% should come from solar. Now, this is not being fully or strictly enforced in different states, and more than half of Indian states are still lagging behind their RPO obligations. If the central government, which over the last 2-3 months, we are very happy that the government is taking good initiatives and trying to make it accountable. If they can enforce this PPA, this renewable purchase obligations, it will be of a great help for states to stick to their RPOs and help India to achieve its goal. The second point, which is a very, very controversial issue and has sort of to the large extent, personally for us and also the industry, it has dragged us down in 2019, is PPA renegotiation. One state in India has decided to renegotiate all the existing PPAs that have been in the country, in that particular state in the last year. Though the sanctity of PPA is judicially withheld, and many courts and many of the judgments have come in favor of developers, it still remains as a very sort of a small black mark in India's solar journey. And however, now after 1.5 years, things look to be changing, and the legal course that most of the industry has taken seems to be paid off. But the very idea of renegotiating a sacrosanct or a sanctuous PPA will hamper or will drive away the sentiment of investors. So we hope and we are very happy that the central government has stepped in at right time, and we hope it will not be repeated with other states or other entities in the future. The third point is the taxation. It is a known fact to many of you, and for those of you who don't know, that India has shifted it into a uniform tax system a couple of years back. It's called GST, and before that, in the old tax regime, the tax on solar was to some extent 0, and after that it was simply 5%. But this new regime sort of added complications on the way the taxation is done for solar projects, because generally the engineering part and the procurement part and the construction part are most often handled by different people, and they are now taxed differently, and there is a lot of ambiguity going on, and throughout the chain, right from developers, EPCs, procurers, contractors, everyone is undergoing sort of confused state on how this can be done. So from the federation, we have proposed a simpler structure of 5%, which will override all of this confusion and bring back the clarity that we had before. The fourth part, that is the elephant in the room, which often everyone doesn't talk about, and which is now the need of the hour, and which everyone is now emphasizing, is on the manufacturing. As you know, India is still not a manufacturing rich country when it comes to some leading industrial sectors, and it goes same for solar in the country. India's manufacturing capacity of solar cells is at around 3 gigawatt, and modules is around 10 gigawatt, and 80% of our demand is met from imports. Now, India, it is not safe to say we have missed the bus, especially in today's context. But India requires a comprehensive and a cohesive manufacturing policy, which will give boost for high efficient and upcoming technologies instead of obsolete technologies in the past. So in the new economic stimulus and relief package that has been announced by the government, as part of the COVID relief measures, the government has announced solar cell manufacturing to be a champion sector. We are closely working with the government to set up their new manufacturing policy, and we hope very soon we will have positive results. The fifth point, which is very sort of a funny story, if you see countries like Germany, countries like France, Italy, even Australia, as a matter of fact, USA, their solar proliferation started from distributed generation, from rooftop, and got expanded to utility scale. In India, the story is the other way around. Today, out of 35.6 gigawatt of installed capacity, we have not more than 4 gigawatt of rooftop. That is less than 10 or less than 20%. And our rooftop capacity target is 40 gigawatt by 2022. So we have just 10% of the target with 2 years to go. So there are different factors. India is a federal structure, electricity is a state subject, states have their own power, and utilities are debt ridden. I can name 1,000 problems that are hampering or that are causing this problem. However, there should be a collaborative or collective approach, both from the state, central, and industrial stakeholders, to establish a discourse and solve these issues so that the rooftop capacity target, if not 40 gigawatt, at least 10 to 15 gigawatt can be reached in the next 2 to 3 years. Payment delays, of course, I kept it in the last because it was in the first a couple of months back, or as even 6 months back. But now Government of India has become very proactive in addressing these issues and coming up with innovative solutions like letter of credit and safeguarding it in the tender. Now, to the final segment. Where are we in 100 gigawatt journey? As of today, you can see that 36% of the capacity which we want to install by 2022, we have installed. 18% is in various stages of commissioning, 26% is tendered, and 20% to be tendered. If you see our track record, you might say that it is now at no cost or no way we can achieve our target. However, there is an enabler in terms of a scheme called KUSUM. Through KUSUM, government wants to install 25,000 megawatt of distributed solar in the country in the next 2 years. And the beauty of distributed solar is it is decentralized. It doesn't require large tenders. It doesn't require large infrastructure. It is more of decentralized with different players throughout the country, spread throughout the geography of India in different states. And that is the way I think KUSUM scheme will play a silent hero role in this 100 gigawatt of target. If you see in the component A, the government wants to install 10 gigawatt of solar on the barren lands, and sometimes they have also given us permission for installing it on agriculture lands. And with NSEFI and with Indo-German Energy Forum, we are trying to develop a cohesive policy for agro-PV to collocate solar and agriculture, so that India's goal of having 2022 100 gigawatt by 2022 and doubling the farmer income by 2022 can be achieved parallel. Now there the incentives are very good, and the farmer can install up to 2 megawatt from 500 kilowatt system on his farmland and connect to the nearest substation. In component B, India for the first time wants to install 2 million standalone pumps in the country, and these pumps will be directly subsidized up to 60%, 30% from the state, 30% from the center to the farmers, and they will be, farmers will be in a position to use solar-based solar pumps, agricultural pumps to irrigate their fields. Now, there is another aspect which is sort of a key issue in the Indian context, where if you see, we have a highly subsidized agriculture power sector, and KUSUM is sort of a stalwart or a hero in disguise to address two things. One, to increase India's solar capacity, and two, to decrease the debt burden on the discoms who are subsidizing India's agricultural consumers. So in the component C, the grid connected, farmer can connect his solar pump to the grid, use how much ever he can, and then pump the extra unit into the grid and earn revenue. So that is another good part of this component C in the KUSUM. So On one hand, we talk about large scale projects which are doing good. On second hand, we say rooftop is sort of dim, but there is still hope. On the third hand, we have this guy Kusum who is right in charge and right in a good position to take India closer to our target. And you'll not believe me, even amidst lockdown, solar pump sector in the country has not, the forecasts are not decreased. Even in the solar normal forecast, we have corrected our forecast. But when it comes to pumps, we are still thinking we might have to increase it because agrarian activity has amplified. And of course, India is an agrarian economy and we have to make maximum utilization of that. So now that brings to my last slide. What will we do? Where will we go? So I have a disclaimer with this slide, which I will tell in my conclusion. But there are two scenarios. One is the low scenario of outlook and one is the high scenario of outlook. In the low scenario of outlook, we might end up halfway mark or 50 gigawatts shy of our target. And in the high scenario, we might end up almost nearer to the installed capacity, that is around 95.6 gigawatts. Now you might say, how are you assuming around 50 gigawatt installations in 2 years? There is a rationale here. In the high scenario, there are a lot of projects in the country today that are looking for extension or that have been impacted by COVID. So
I think I have lost my slides. I'm unable to project them. But what I wanted to convey was that in a high scenario, India will be sort of in a good position to install 95.6 gigawatt of solar in the next 3 years, while we'll be falling 4 gigawatts short of our original target. In the low scenario, we'll be somewhere around 55.52 gigawatt, which is around 35 gigawatt less than 45 gigawatt less than our initial target. So with this, I would like to conclude that with a very famous saying that a wise man once said that an economist is an expert who will know tomorrow why the things he predicted yesterday didn't happen today. So there is no way we can predict what will happen in the Indian market or in any market, especially in the wake of COVID and all. But it is safer to understand and assume that given the current scenario, we are in a very good position to inch very close to our target. And of course, India has a higher goal of 300 gigawatt by 2030 and 40% of our energy mix by 2030. And whatever has been done by the government over the last 4 or 5 years and last 6 years in the new government took over, last 2 years in terms of innovative tendering, everything has been in line with promoting this particular aspect of 100 gigawatt of solar. So I would like to conclude by saying that India is the place where the action is happening. Very soon we will become the 4th largest solar installed country in the world. And if everything happens right, even maybe this year, we might overtake US to become the 2nd largest market in the world. And I'm very happy to have been contributing to the GMO. This is my 2nd year where I've been involved in GMO's India market report. And I hope that everyone will be very excited to learn more about Indian market, and they will be even more eager to know how things go forward. And thanks very much again to Intersolar, Smarter E, and even SolarPower Europe. Congratulations to both of you for this wonderful event. And I think we can take questions now.
Thank you very much, Subrahmanyam, for this insights, and it was indeed very interesting for me to listen to your presentation and to get some more insights. We have some questions collected. May I start with the first one? Can you quickly summarize what are the main points which will drive India to achieve the 100 gigawatt goal?
So that's a very good question. Like I said, we have, I always tell this answer everywhere. There are 3 C's that India should keep in mind to take us towards the 100 gigawatt goal. One is capital. The more liquidity in the market, the better the situation for upcoming bids and the industry. When I talk about liquidity for large scale players, they need to get paid when they install projects, when they commission projects, and that should be done at time because it is their equity that is being stuck. And when it comes to small scale players, the subsidy and the direct benefit transfer should be done directly to the end consumer, not through the mediums of government utilities, where the process will become cumbersome. So the first C is the capital part. The second C is curtailment. India has done a marvelous job in according must-run status for solar plants in the country. When I say must-run, any utility cannot deduct or stop power from any solar plant in the country at any given point of time, except in exceptional situations where the grid is being affected. However, there are some states which are trying to, maybe they have a higher energy mix of other sources, or maybe they think solar is somewhat costlier because the PPS was signed before. They're trying to curtail it unduly. If you address that point, India's both investor sentiment will increase, and also the sustainability of existing products will also be good. At NSEFI, we have a live tracker. Every day at night, at 12 o'clock at night, I open my email, I get an alert of how many projects in India have been curtailed. We get the data from the ground, and every Friday, the minister, the secretary, the responsible utility get a mail from my name to them saying that these are the states where the power has been curtailed, these are the reasons given, and these are the things that we think that are not syncing with the reason that they have given. And the third C, which is very important not only for India but for any other country, is certainty. Policy certainty is something that every industry looks forward to. Unfortunately, I have to acknowledge it on this platform that there have been some flip-flops over the last 2-3 years, which did not cause much of disruption, but still, I would say they were like sort of as bumpers in our journey to 100 gigawatt. However, now the government is also stable. Now the infrastructure or the machinery, government machinery is taking solar very seriously. And I think very soon we'll also get new coercive policies, and this might take us more nearer to our 100 gigawatt goal.
All right. Then we have a second one concerning maybe it is the large-scale distributed generation installation projects for the contribution to the 100 gigawatt. And coming to that, who will finance those kind of projects?
Financing the large-scale projects.
Yes, when it comes to the large-scale distributed generation installations.
Okay, so this is not the utility scale, large-scale distributed generation.
Correct, yes.
It is a very good question. In fact, just 1 month back, exactly 1 month back, while we were celebrating our 9th anniversary, we had this discussion with international development funds like World Bank, GIZ, KFW, DFID and all. And you should understand, every international fund is both curious as well as thrilled about India's distributed energy market. Because today, per capita income of India is increasing steadily. India's energy demand is increasing steadily. The capacity of people paying is increasing. So distributed energy generation is the place where the money is. We have companies like I won't name the companies, but they have been acquired by multinational companies from Malaysia, from Europe, from USA. So the fund influx has never been an issue. And in fact, we were giving a report to the ministry. In the last 2 years alone, we had $9.2 billion of foreign investments in the solar energy sector. 9.2 billion alone in solar energy sector is something which is almost 12% of India's FDI in the country in developmental infrastructure sector. So that says how foreign investors are very interested and inclined towards distributed generation in the country. And the second part, India's own finance machinery, India's banks, India's NBFCs, India's public sector undertaking banks, they are the ones who have been given mandate. India's renewable energy sector is under priority lending sector. That means in any given financial year, you have to give a particular amount of loan or disperse particular amount of funds to solar sector. And this is a mandate given by the government. And these banks or these finance institutions have to be upheld or withheld if they don't do that. So that is also another second instrument. And the third instrument, which I think is sort of slowly gaining traction, is private equity. Private equity is Indian private equity. Foreign, of course, has been always part of integral part of India's market, and they are also trying to bring lots of euros and dollars into Indian market. So I think to summarize, there is no glut. India is a lucrative destination. Second, the enabling infrastructure is so easy and so that it will attract investments and investors come what may.
All right. Next question. So when it comes to the manufacturing part, you already had in your presentation, will the manufacturing will be solar to solar, which means there will be no coal used for the manufacturing of the cells? Have you information about that?
So you're talking about the raw materials and the other part, right?
Right. Of course, not only the raw materials, or when it comes to the energy you need to produce or to manufacture the cells,
Yes.
will those energy be sourced from solar or from other renewable energy sources, or what do you think?
So, I mean, it is very early for me to comment on this part as of now. But if you see the largest tender of $6 billion that completed just 1 week back, so the company is developing 6 gigawatt of solar installation and 2 gigawatt of manufacturing. And this 6 gigawatt will be coming in next 4 or 5 years. So naturally, it might be a situation where it might consume it also, but I'm not sure. But it is too early to say as of now. And the second thing is, see, today, even after the lockdown has been imposed, we had this wonderful, unique opportunity to have around 30% of our energy coming from renewable sources. While our goal was to have 40% by 2022, because of lockdown and decreased demand, we had 30% coming from our resources. So, come what may, India's strategy, or rather India's path ahead, is to get or inculcate as much RE into the grid as much as possible, so that we can propel our industry and our infrastructure through this energy.
All right, thank you. Last question. There's a strong priority for water pumps. Are the aquifers replenished every year with the monsoons, or is there a depletion problem?
So there is India, we have this word called Jugaad, that is frugal innovation. We try to find our own solutions or our own way of dealing with problems. So every tender has inbuilt maintenance and annual maintenance and commissioning issues. And the company that is responsible for that has to deal with it. So irrespective of the way monsoon shapes up or things are there, the replacement rate as of now is very less in the country, from my knowledge. And on the other hand, if you see, most of these things are non-submersible, where they are not directly exposed to the ground silt or groundwater levels. So there, it sort of reduces the rate of replacement and maintenance there. But having said that, India is well poised to become Asia's hubspot for solar-based pumps, both on-grid and off-grid. And we are very happy to support government initiative on that. And maybe in the very near future, we'll be coming up with largest tenders also, just like we have seen in manufacturing and utility scale.
Perfect. So time is over now. I'd like to thank you very much again for this insightful presentation. Of course, I'd like to thank the audience as well. Yes, so now it's time for the lunch break, or wherever you are on the wall, for a break for 2 hours, and then we will start the next sessions regarding Brazil and what's happening over there. So thank you very much, and have a nice lunch break.
Thank you.